Serial killers are classified by killing 3 or more people over a time frame longer than a month, with a cooling off period between each kill. Serial killers often invoke fear, but at the same time curiosity over what makes them tick. This list looks at the top 5 most prolific serial killers to date. Starting off our list, we begin with an American serial killer called Gary Ridgeway. Born on February 18, 1949 in Salt Lake City, the middle child of 3 siblings, Gary led a pretty normal life in his early years. With a military background after joining the Navy and assisting on a supply ship, no one would suspect the sinister person Gary would turn out to be. On November 30th, 2001, Gary was finishing work at the Kenworth truck factory, but was immediately arrested by police on leaving in the suspected murder of 4 women linked via DNA evidence. Gary begins to understand the severity of the situation, entered a plea bargain where he disclosed the victims' bodies' locations in order to escape the death penalty. Unknown to police at the time of Gary's arrest, he would be convicted of 49 confirmed killings, making him one of the most prolific murderers in the history of America to date. Although he has confirmed 49 murders, Gary has also confessed to the further crimes and is claimed to have killed double the number, although this cannot be confirmed by police. The way in which Gary killed his victims, he would often strangle them, but due to his sexual fantasies, he would often return to the crime scene where he had dumped the bodies in order to have sexual intercourse with them. As of making this video, Gary Ridgeway is still alive today, serving his life sentence. At number 4 we have John Wayne Gacy, born Chicago in March 17, 1942. Second of 3 children, John was always unathletic and overweight during his childhood. His father was an abusive alcoholic and both physically and mentally abusive to the family. This made John's early life very difficult, always trying to win his father's approval. John's first known murder was committed January 2nd, 1972, after John picked up a 15-year-old boy from a bus station. He allowed the 15-year-old youth to stay at his home, but the following morning John murdered the boy by repeatedly stabbing him in the chest. The body was placed in a crawl space in the home and covered with concrete in order to conceal John's heinous crime. When John was arrested by police and began to be questioned over the suspected killings of individuals, John later admitted that he gained the ultimate thrill from murder, and he was almost addicted to it. On December 22nd, 1978, a total of 6 years after his first kill, John confessed to the police that he had committed in the range of 25 to 30 killings. These people were often being lured back to his house where they would be handcuffed and choked with a rope. Many of these victims were buried in his crawl space where John would place quicklime in order to quicken the bodies decomposing. After these confessions and finding of multiple bodies in John's house, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection, and this was preceded on May 10th, 1994. At number 3 on our list is Louis Garavito, also known as the Beast. Born 25th of January 1957 in Colombia, oldest of 7 brothers, physically and mentally abused by his father, Garavito is certainly one of the most disturbed people on our list. With Garavito's 138 confirmed victims, this man would make his victims suffer and torture them before their eventual death. Many of his murders were of young children between the ages of 8 to 16, and he posed as an authority figure or a priest. He would lure these poor children into a false sense of trust with money and gifts. Once he had taken these children into a secluded area, he would then cut their throats, rape them, and in many cases torture them in the worst possible way. Once he was arrested on the 22nd of April 1999, he was charged with the total killings of 172 people. Although Garavito's arrest and under Colombian law, 139 kills comes to a total of 1,853 years and 9 days sentence for Garavito in prison. There is a loophole in which Colombian law imprisonment only lasts to a maximum of 30 years, because he helped police find some of the bodies in which he murdered the children. As well as his confessions, his sentence was further reduced to 22 years. He may possibly qualify for even earlier release for further cooperation and good behaviour. Understandably, in Colombia, there has been mass worry and outcry over Garavito's early release, as this disturbed individual will no doubt commit his crimes again. But at current, Garavito is still alive and serving 22 years imprisonment. Moving into number 2, we have Fritz Haarmann, born 25th of October 1879 in Hanover, the German Empire, youngest of 6 children and an absent father figure. His mother tried to make up for the void by being protective and often spoilt her children. From a young age, Fritz detested his father and developed a bitter hatred. Fritz served in the military and was described as an exemplary soldier, which caused him to blend into society very well, where no one would suspect his heinous crimes. However, between the years 1918 and 1924, it had been proven that Fritz had killed 24 victims, but was suspected of killing 27. All his murder victims were under the age of 22. They were lured back to his house, where he would feed and water them, after which Fritz would often bite through their Adam's apple, causing them to die of air hunger or loss of blood. After the victims had died, he would then dismember them for ready for disposal. After police learned of his crimes, Fritz was then sentenced to death by guillotine, which proceeded on April 15th, 1925. The number 1 most prolific serial killer in our list needs no introduction. Ted Bundy, born November 24th, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont. Regarded as a handsome and charming man, Ted was able to blend in with his local community very well with his charm and quick wit. This was later used to his advantage in order to commit his crimes. In order to gain access to his victim, he would fake injury in a public place in an attempt for them to come over and offer their assistance. Once the victim was in a place of seclusion, he would overpower them. Once they had been murdered, his victims would often be dumped, in which Ted would revisit the body on multiple occasions in order to perform sex acts on the decaying body. The heads were often kept of his victims as trophies, which he would keep in his apartment after each kill. If Ted was feeling particularly bloodthirsty, he would often break into people's homes and simply bludgeon them to death as the victims slept in their beds. On his arrest, Ted was convicted of over 36 killings, and he's made the number 1 spot on our list due to his fame gained through his serial killings and his charm. With multiple books and movies made on Ted Bundy, he is one of the most known serial killers throughout the world. As per his conviction, he was executed via the electric chair on January 24th, 1989.